Yeah. Hi everyone. Once again, good morning. So sorry for keeping you wait for the sessions, and I welcome you all to the Hyderabad's first ever Data Masterclass, which is organized by Anblicks, and I hope you all are excited. Is it? Okay. Thanks for that. So in this masterclass, we are going to have two sessions in place. One is of empowering data engineers with metadata and governance, which will be held by our MD, Gowtham, and followed up by a session of scaling and buildable applications by Siddharth. So he's our guest speaker. He's from Alation itself. So now we are going to start the first session of today's masterclass. And let me welcome our managing director, who is a dynamic person on the floor here at Anblicks. And I hope some of you are already connected with him in the morning, so you might have get that. And he is going to encourage young talents. And apart from this, he's also a very enthusiastic person to dive into data. So Gautam, the stage is yours.
Hello everybody. Don't you take that intro. I'm not that powerful nor dynamic. I think all of our engineers are more dynamic than us. Again, thank you so much for coming, and sincere apologies. The first speaker, Anthony, couldn't make it. In fact, he was waiting, but he had to jump off due to some emergency, and we had some delay, right? So we would try to make it up. He was supposed to cover some important topics, but happy to discuss on the floor anything about Alation data governance as a whole. I think a lot of content is available through their website and all, and Siddharth is Alation expert. He's on the floor, so you can have some networking time with him to understand anything specific to the tool or the technology. Right? Again, apologies and thank you again for coming. Good morning, everybody. Okay, next slide, Arsha. So, just to give some context about the topic, right? We were brainstorming on what should we talk, right? We all are excited about data. We are all excited about AI. I mean, obviously Gen AI, right? And we were thinking if we don't put AI or Gen AI, then there is lack of interest and people wouldn't show up. Then we were thinking majority of the people, at least in the Indian market, are primarily within the data engineering ecosystem, right? So we were thinking of what to talk, what to present, and we came up with this topic because what we have been seeing traditionally is all of us, I mean, I was a data engineering graduate as well. So traditionally what we look at data governance, metadata, cataloging, data management as a whole is, it is a bureaucratic process built for control, right? And primarily addressing cost avoidance use cases. I mean, if you understand cost avoidance, which is primarily to address your regulatory compliance requirements, right? Recently, Citi is one of our largest customers, and they had to go through a consent order. And the consent order, if you go through online, right, and check about Citi's consent order, it's primarily around data governance and management. And can any of you guess the fine they have to pay for the consent order? I don't want Citi people to speak up, but general guess. 10 million? Okay, good first guess, but any other, one more take? Sorry? 1 billion? Million, okay. No, but you were actually close with the first number. It's more than $500 million, right? And they had to, that's direct fine. Indirectly now for them to address the consent order, we, in fact, all our team and some of the people, I think from TCS also showed up that's working for Citi. Most of their tech investment is now going into addressing the consent order, right? Again, to build proper data governance practices, to understand where data is and all that. And again, all that is related to cost avoidance, right? How do you put in good governance management practices and avoid cost? And we all know that, right? We all know that, we hear that. But in this session, we don't want to talk about it, right? Rather, we want to talk about why is governance or catalog or metadata, everything around data management is important for data engineers, right? How can it help you guys accelerate your journey towards what you do in your day-to-day life? And that's what we are going to talk about today. And I don't want to bore you with all the slides, not all the gnan. We would make it little interactive. In fact, I was telling our marketing team, most of the slides I have are blank, mostly white, nothing there. Rather, we would, talk and discuss and see how we can empower ourselves, leveraging, cataloging, metadata and all. That's what we are going to discuss for the next 30 to 40 minutes. Okay. Next slide. I should have, spoke about this first, then go into the other things. Again, my name is Gowtham Voruganti. I'm a managing director here, again, just for the sake of the title. But, at the core, I'm an engineer. Very focused and, a lot of expertise within the banking, financial services and insurance space. Data is my thing. I started as a data developer. I don't want to put number of years of experience there and reveal my age. Apart from data, I'm more passionate about trying out some exotic cocktails, right? If you have some interest there, happy to initiate some conversations. Obviously, data is good, but from when I started my career, data engineers generally are not recognized by businesses, right? Because we always do the back-end work, and nobody really values us within the company, at least until last 5-6 years ago, because we were primarily driving passive analytic use cases, right? We were not active. We were not actively providing intelligent insights and plugging them back into the business process, right? So that is what I'm passionate about, and we at Anblicks are passionate about. And in fact, our tagline says it out, right? Building intelligent enterprises. What we mean by that is, how do you activate data back into the business process and plug those insights back into business? Selfish reason, we want business to value the data people, right? So that's our goal, and that's what we're passionate about. Worked at a client location, worked in consulting, so I have seen both the worlds. Globally, worked in US, back in India from 2017, and worked across different sizes of the organization, right? Long time at JPMC when I was in US, Deloitte, once I moved back, again, a big consulting organization, now into a boutique firm like Anblicks, and we are trying to build another Deloitte out of Anblicks, right? That's our goal here. So that's my overall, about me. Happy to connect off the session on the floor. Any questions, any feedback, happy to discuss. Next slide. He revealed everything up front. So again, we were talking about city and the consent order, right? That's more of what we see in the market. And most of you are probably aware of governance and the impact from cost avoidance standpoint. But this is a study on the industry impact for how it is impacting data engineering and the efficiencies, right? As you can see, we don't have to go through line by line, but there is a lot of wastage in terms of the effort, because effort is money, and there is a lot of wastage in money for the businesses if we are not empowered with good data management and governance practices as a whole, right? This is again general study. In fact, to be very honest, I pulled it out of ChatGPT, right? Nothing out of the box there. But if you really look at it, the numbers are huge, right? We really need to be, as data engineers, a little cognitive about ensuring that all these practices are followed, supported, right? And make sure we are adopting them as part of our day-to-day job, so we can bring in some efficiencies in how we deliver data and insights, right? So that's more about it. Next slide. Again, like I was telling earlier, not too many slides, right? We'll just make it more interactive. And to make it more interactive, we want to bring in some real use case into the discussion, right? And we want to set the context for the use case, right? And CBRE, again, one of our largest customers. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm just trying to set up context, right, with a customer example which is real. They're global leader in real estate and property management. I'm sure most of you know CBRE, right? It's public listed, so it's not private information. In fact, this property is managed by CBRE as well. So they provide all the property services for us. They also helped us in finding this location, right? And they're global, operate in 100 countries, huge company, lot of, I think Bansi can answer, how many IT tech team they have, CBRE? Overall? No, from Anblicks we have 50, but I'm saying CBRE as a whole, I think at least 1 lakh people. Yeah, so huge, yeah, so huge enterprise. And they work with a lot of suppliers, right? When you talk about suppliers, like, for example, we have a plumbing issue in the bathroom, right? So they have to work with a supplier local, and they have to pay the supplier for the services or the products they offer, right? And like that, overall, across the globe, their spend on the suppliers is about 13 to 14 billion, right, out of their 35 billion revenue. So that comprises to about 50% of their revenue, right? And we were tasked with how can we optimize that spend. First of all, they are not having a proper insight on where is the spend going, right? Who are the suppliers, and how do we optimize that spend, because that is huge, right? So that's the context for all of us to base upon and work in this session. We talked about services, we talked about suppliers, but we want to take a real requirement we get, right? In fact, I got it from Bansi, who leads our CBRE efforts. Typically, when business reaches out to the data people, right? Again, this is passive analytics. We are not talking about an active analytic use case. But the requirement we get as an engineer is simple, right? Identify the top 10 suppliers ranked by spend volume. So whom are we partnering with in terms of the vendors, and what is the spend, and who are the top 10, right? This is again a very simple architecture. I'm not sure if you're able to see, but like any other data platform, right? Multiple systems, we ingest the data, we process the data into some dimensional models, and then you plug your BI out on top of it, right? Very basic architecture, Azure Snowflake ecosystem, right? And this is just for one of the lines. They have multiple lines having different architectures. In fact, now we are trying to consolidate all of them. Any questions on the case study, right? That is the requirement we have. Simple to understand, not too complex. Anybody has any questions on the context or the use case? Sorry? Okay, so the problem statement, like I was talking earlier, right, is they deal with multiple suppliers, and suppliers are across the globe and very local, and there are millions of suppliers, and they don't have a proper insight into who are all the suppliers, how much spend they're making per supplier, and the requirement we get, again, one example, right, is who are the top 10 suppliers based on the spend. So in fact, I mean, we did a lot of spend analytics, spend optimization, in fact, a lot of Gen AI leveraged. We can take that offline if you want to know more about that use case. But this is a simple requirement to identify top 10 suppliers based on the spend, right? So that's the requirement we get, right? I'm sure most of you would get requirements like this from the business. Obviously, you would get it from your business analysts or data analysts. But this is just one case study we want to walk you through today. So any other questions? You're good, right? Yeah. It's more of a requirement than the problem, right? The core problem and how we solved it, we'll definitely discuss offline. Cool. Next slide. So usually if you are new into the ecosystem, right, if you are new to the company, the first thing you have to do is get access to the data platform, right? We'll pick one or two people. I just want to understand how, when you join a company or when you go to a client, what do you do to get this, right? You need to get access. Simple. One second.
Will reach to the senior people who is having the those kind of access and granting permissions.
Exactly, right? Reach to the senior people. That is your first step. Sorry.
Yeah, via email or any contact platform like email, chat, or anything.
Exactly, right? Which is what we all do.
Yes.
So we'll pass on. So now, once you reach out, can anybody talk about what is provided to you? Onboarding documents, right? And KT sessions, AD groups, right? Sorry? Database access. But all this, like, sorry, your name? Yeah. Saikaran said, it's all documentation, right? You have to go look at the documentation. You need to know what are the systems, what are the platforms, what are the AD groups. Most of the times they would have some workflow system like ServiceNow, right? Where you have to go request and get the access. Imagine you don't have to do all that, right? Imagine you have a proper catalog of platforms, catalog of systems, catalog of groups, where you can easily understand it, right, without having to rely on other people. Think of tools like Immuta, right? So tech is evolving. So if you go to Immuta, it's active security management, right? So you can easily go look at what is there, easily provision access from there. It triggers a workflow, right? So again, the way you approach and get the access, you have to spend time, right? At least a week or 2 weeks typically to get the access. Good. So we'll conclude all this. Basically, help you out with the thought of where we are actually spending time, right? Next slide. So once we get the access, taking that same use case, now if there is nothing in your platform related to supplier data, first thing as an engineer, we need to know what are all the system of records, right? Where is the system of source of truth for supplier data? And in fact, in the architecture, we were seeing all those were different supplier systems. And they're all transactional systems, right? OLTP systems, heavily normalized. The table structures, nobody knows the naming conventions. Most of the times, we wouldn't have a data dictionary associated with it. Correct? Very, very tough to know what are the systems and how do you, where is the supplier data, right? So can we take a few more people and just ask, given this, what would you do, right, in your day-to-day life? You have to take this example. You need to find where the supplier data is. What would you do? You know the architecture, right? You know all the system of records. Any thoughts? Yeah. Absolutely right. So again, catalog is important. Now assume your life without a catalog, right? How would we do traditionally? Any thoughts? Correct. Exactly, right? Absolutely right. Provided you have an SME. And 90% of the time, I don't think we have SMEs that understands the systems well. Sorry? Correct. Yeah. So dictionary, you look at metadata, glossary, right? But if you don't have an SME, if you don't first of all, you need to find the system, obviously. Let's say you know the system. A lot of times what we do is we profile the data, right? You do your own analysis to understand, what is supplier data, where is it, how is it distributed in that thousands of tables, right? Lot of effort goes into profiling. Provided there is an SME, there is some benefit, you have some assistant to you. If not, we struggle, right? There's a lot of struggle. Now, going back to Sai Kiran, right? If you have a good catalog of information, it makes your life easy, at least to understand where is the data, right? Most of the glossary is defined, and there is a lot of semantic search capability, right, within tools like Alation, and that would really help us solve this problem, right, and avoid those back and forth communications and all that effort that goes in there. Right. Okay, now we get some SME knowledge, we understand the data, and if we go to the next step, Harsha. So we acquire and profile the data, right, and then you need to know how to extract it. Typically, let's say you understood that these are the 20 tables that has this supplier information, and you understand the glossary of it. So okay, where is the spend, and where is the supplier name, and you get to know all those details. Now you need to extract that data out of the hundreds of tables, right? You all know how complex it is, correct? And most of you are data engineers again, right? Anybody that's not with data engineering background? Okay, you are a data analyst. So basically, analysts face the same problem, right? Lot of times, in fact, you face a lot of challenge even after we land the data, correct? Because most of the time we land it without any information about it. And then you go query, profile the data, and identify where the information is, right? Where is it located? Next step. So once you land the data, you understand it. And in our case of CBRE, there are about 10 systems in which supplier data is managed, right? It depends. I mean, we categorize the suppliers. Each category of supplier has some core system, right? End of the day, you land it as is typically, but then you need to have integration done, right? You need to bring it all into a consolidated state. Now, when we have to consolidate, typically we work with data modelers. A modeler will say, this is how my entities are, right, representing business. And most of the time right now, I mean, we are moving into dimensional models, correct? So you have a dimensional model where you have all the supplier information modeled into denormalized, not heavily denormalized, but some denormalized instance and integrated, right? Now you have to do the mapping. And how do you guys map? Any few examples? Unless your data modeler says, this is my STM document, right? Source to mapping document. If you have to build your STM, how would you do it? Any thoughts, examples? Sorry, I can't. Oh, Sirisha, okay. By looking at the data. And you know how tough it is for you at Footlocker, right? I remember the Footlocker days. By the way, Sirisha works with Anblicks, so I know the client.
Based on domain.
Based on domain. Exactly, right? Yeah. So good, you are bringing in the practical examples as well, right? Yeah. So data modeling is tough, right? I strongly believe that's the toughest job in the whole data ecosystem, right? Engineering is easy, right? Easy in the sense with ChatGPT at least now it's easy, right? There are assistants. I mean, you can build the code. Problem is with understanding the business, building those entities, it's very challenging, right? It requires a lot of effort. Again, like you said, very important for us to know the lineage. But lineage, for you to establish lineage, first you need to know the mapping, right? And that mapping, in fact, we are building one solution to bring in some intelligence in how we map, because 90% of the time goes into that mapping exercise, right? How would you map your source data into these integrated data models is where we believe that 90% of the time goes into, correct? And then we know issues with consistency and quality, particularly with multiple systems, third-party systems, right? Internal systems, at least there is some check on quality, but 90% of the time we deal with bringing that data into a consistent format and with right quality. Without that, there is heavy impact in terms of the effort required on the right. If you can address that consistency and quality problem when you bring the data in, it really helps longer term. Again, I'm putting consistency, quality, obviously lineage would come, but all that are very important factors for us to think about and leverage tools, or you can, without tools, even if it is Excel, that's okay. But make sure there is some thought about it, right? When you're bringing in the data from all these different systems and applying the mapping into the integrated model. Next slide. Ideally, how much time do you guys really spend here compared to all the other things we talked about so far? General idea, right? Let's say you have to put in 80 hours for your story, right? A simple requirement like that, your analysts will say, it doesn't take more than 2 weeks. But most of the times in your sprint would go into the first 3-4 steps, correct? And you would probably get a day or two to apply the core business logic, right? But is that true? Is that a similar thing that you all face? Anything different?
Actually, a lot of times, this is one of the most, I think, underestimated, an activity where a lot of nitty-gritties would actually emerge in the last minute. So that's where you scramble, the team to get around. But I think it actually requires much more attention than what generally it gets it. So I would actually say anywhere between 20-25% at least you should have some thinking around the transformations in the whole equation of things.
Thank you. Yeah, 100%, right? We want our engineers to put their best efforts here because this is where value is, right? There is no value in your profiling. There is no value in your mapping exercises, right? There's no value in modeling. Nobody cares, right? At least business doesn't care. We really want engineers to put in effort here, and if you want to put in more effort here, we don't want you to spend that 80% of your time in other steps that we talked about, which is where truly these cataloging tools, metadata, forget about the tool, right? Understanding of the data, readily available metadata is more important. Next step. This is again, I wanted to keep it blue. We really want to build data products, right? Data products carry true business value, right? They're measurable. People understand the importance of these. So we want you to focus on putting more efforts in applying the business logic and delivering true valuable data products, right? In our case, a dashboard is a product, right? A dashboard which would tell, okay, these are your top 10 suppliers with a rich UI, very self-service enabled UI. We use Power BI here, as you have seen in the architecture. But this is where we really want engineers to spend time on, right? The last step and this step. Next one. So, did anybody worked on delivering data products generally? You did? Okay, awesome. Could you give one example of a data product from, I meant more in terms of the business value of that, a scenario? It's okay, I don't want to put you on spot, but generally, right?
Before building any dashboard, we will first set up a meeting with the business like who are gonna see it. For example, like client success managers, they will give like exact requirements of what they wanna see in the dashboard, like KPI metrics card. Once we gather the requirement, we will start working on the data product.
Got it. No, that's correct, Tony, right? Sorry. Yeah.
Once we map the data, right, during the raw layer, the landing layer, and the transform layer. So what happens next is what we do is we mostly engage with the data science team to understand what is the value that they want to see. All right. Basis their requirement, we work with the MLOps team or the data science team, build the models and see how the application scoring is working, and then we take it into production. So that's how my project works.
No, that's great, right? You're tying your product to a business value, so people realize the importance of it. Now, got it. Got it. Yeah, that is okay.
Because I understand you are speaking about certifying the product itself.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. So there are two reasons. I'll come to that point, right? So a lot of times, at least what we are seeing as a challenge to our customers is we build data products, right? Dashboards, data models, AI models, right? That serve a specific purpose. All this, there is no single catalog where particularly larger enterprises like CBRE, right? Nobody knows where the insight is. 90% of the time, the users come in, ask for the same insight again and again and again. If the engineers are changing, we build redundant copies of the same insight, correct? And there is no single catalog where across the organization, people can really look at what is available, right, already. If I have a searchable interface where I can quickly go understand, I want to know top 10 suppliers by spend, if I just search by it, I should really know what is the dashboard that is already having that insight. If not, then there is a lot of wastage again, right? Redundant copies of same insight being built. And again, you have to start all the way from the front. So that extrapolates the effort we have to put in to generate that insight. That is one problem. Second, there is a major challenge in lack of trust, right? All these consumers that come in, all these business users that come in, they don't know if that asset that is there, like your dashboard, is it right? And they face a lot of challenge. In fact, we are seeing that, right? Particularly in your modernization journeys everywhere, right? You publish product, is it ready for me to use? What are all the checks you have done on the product, right? Is it fresh? All your 6 data quality dimensions or 7, right? Is the integrity valid? Are all the business rules valid? What are all the business rules that are applied to make sure this product has the right insight, right? If not, then they make bad decisions, correct? Which is where we are talking about certified data product, because whenever you're producing a data product, make sure it's certified, right? Think about it. How do you certify? What are all the things that you look at to make sure a product is certified? Because we don't want it to be reactive, because once you publish a product, then somebody is looking at it, we don't want them to come back, ask questions, because it sets wrong customer experience. Although they're internal, they evaluate you based on your quality of the delivery, right? So ensure there is certification process when you're building a data product. Go look at data product certification, you understand a lot of things. And to address the problem of publishing it where everybody can see it, right? Everybody is now talking about marketplaces, right? Snowflake talks about their own internal marketplace, although they already have an external marketplace, right? You can search for what are all the data assets available for you to use. But internal marketplaces are becoming very popular. We are building one to take it back to our customers as a service, right? But there are tools available. I'm assuming Alation also has a marketplace capability now. I'm not sure, right, Siddharth? But every catalog, Colibra is building their own marketplace. Again, trying to solve that problem of, first of all, understanding what are all the insights available, what are all the data products available for me to consume, and whether it is something that I can trust on to get that insight, right? Next slide. So once we deliver all this, this is a classic problem, right? Engineers we move companies, right? Or we move into other things, and we hand it over to support teams. And we see this problem very evident, right? You build something, you deploy something, then there is an enhancement that comes, right? Now we want to add a category to that, right? Instead of just supplier, plumbing as a category, just as an example, right? Now you need to reclassify everything and enhance the dashboard that you already published. And if you are new again, you have to go through the same problem again, or you have to go through the code, right? You need to understand the code through some document again. You reverse engineer from the code to understand the logic. You understand the mappings. Now you need to go find out where the category information is, right? And imagine the challenge again, right? You're spending a lot of time just to do a small query enhancement, right? You're just adding another group by, as an example, in this case, right? So that's the pain, correct? Now you get an issue, right? Most of the times we deal with issues, particularly in the support space, right? Somebody comes and says, my country value is blank. How do you guys approach it? Any thoughts? I mean, you have the dashboard, we identified everything, we built it, the dashboard is out there, again, without the cataloging or lineage available, right? What is the process? Any thoughts, quick thoughts? We look for keywords. You mean in the... Correct. Exactly, right? But all that requires a lot of reverse engineering, right? Yeah, backtracing is very important, and we spend a lot of time in backtracing. Again, going back to our example, right? The two things we talked about, where we all are interested in, where we actually solve the problem, versus going through all these pain points, is where the wastage of time is, right? And we are trying to solve it, right? Industry is trying to solve it. Catalogs are coming in, right? Lineage is coming in. It's not easy, right? But if we are able to solve that problem, we can bring in a lot of efficiency into how engineering is done. And in fact, we can do good work than the tedious manual work, right? Next slide. So this is, again, we don't have to go through all the detail, but just a framework for you to take back. Again, governance, metadata, cataloging is not a technology problem alone, right? It's a people, process, technology problem. All these things should come together for us to be able to address this problem. But with the adoption of AI, Gen AI, right, there is a lot of automation that we are doing. For example, take and active metadata, right? Active metadata management is becoming very popular, right? You get data too fast into the systems, and if you're putting person to manage all that, it's very tough for the person to manage. So how do you remove that friction, right? And leverage modern technologies like AI, Gen AI is a good technology problem to solve within the overall data management space, and industry is struggling, right? Tools, technologies like Alation, Colibra, they're all evolving, trying to solve this problem at scale. But once you go back, I just want to leave you with this thought, right? Important to manage your data, because if you all agree to what we have discussed, there is a lot of wastage in time, and there is a problem to solve in the industry for us to be able to solve this at scale, because a lot of enterprises, I mean, we work with travelers insurance, highly regulated, right? They leveraged Alation. They have a lot of investment made into this, but they're not sustainable, right? These frameworks are not sustainable. You put some bureaucratic process around it, lot of approvals, lot of governance control. It's more control than bringing in that efficiency, right? So industry is struggling, and there is lot of space for all of us, all of you smart people to contribute, right? Leverage modern tech and solve this with tech and reduce the human friction points. And how do you enable this at scale is what we want Siddharth to speak about, right, from his experiences. With that, I would like to end the session. Hope it was helpful. We can discuss on the floor as well, but feel free to ask any questions. Maybe we'll take a couple of minutes. Any questions, thoughts? I mean, it doesn't have to be a question, right? You can challenge, you can say there is a better way, or if you are already solving, please feel free to speak up. We would all love to learn from each other. Any thoughts, comments?
Yeah, I think one of the thing I think I heard you talking about the lineage, and then how do we backtrack a lot of these things, right? A lot of effort and time goes on. So I think one of the thing, I think as you said, there are many tools around, but I think one of the thing also probably not many would have realized, there are actually nowadays some of the data modeling tools that are also coming into picture, which would actually, every object that you create, if you do it through that modeling tool, actually it will help you in providing the entire lineage from from the starting to the end. So one of the thing I think recently that we worked with is SQL DBM as very simple tool, a data modeling tool in simple words if I have to put it. But the moment you create all your objects in that, you can actually literally look through the entire references, column to column level references, so that one doesn't have to manually spend, okay, where is it coming from? Someone doesn't have to go to the code and then verify. So, I mean, I said there are many tools around there, but this is something like very basic tool, but still it is, very much helpful in reducing your, backtracking time. So just thought maybe I'll just share it.
No, absolutely. Great point, right? Again, data modeling is the core, the crux, right? So understand your models better. One more thing is understand your data and business better, right? I think we were talking, right? Engineering is becoming a commodity, right? Everybody can do coding, right? Whoever, in fact, data analysts are gonna be more powerful is what we are hearing for you, Kavya, right? People who understand the data, understand the business are gonna become powerful, right? I always tell our teams here, go ask questions, right? Don't just take the requirement, run a SQL enhancement, right? It's not important. Nobody cares about it. Understand why you are doing it. What is the data product? What is the value of it? End of the day, business cares about two things, right? Is it helping me increase my revenue? Is it helping me increase my bottom line, which is reducing your expense? So always tie your requirement to one of these two aspects. If you are not, then you will quickly become obsolete, right? So please put an effort to understand data, understand your business, understand their business initiatives, tie every work to those things, and understand your data models better, because that represents your business, right? And that's gonna be a core as well. Yeah.
You mentioned people, process, and technology, rightly called out. But throughout the presentation, we've looked at optimizing the process or giving more powerful technology. But there's no mention about people. But end of the day, irrespective of how much we optimize process and technology, it's the person or someone has to use it. So I think the example you quoted might be attributed to the people part of it, traveler's insurance. So is there something that you have done as an external consultant to contribute to that component of it? I'm really interested to know what could have driven the change in that space.
We can discuss more on it, but honestly, that problem is not solved.
Thank you.
Right?
Then I'm not alone.
No, it's not solved, right? Which is why, and it won't be solved if you're putting people in the mix everywhere. But how would you empower people with, like, quick example, right? Your new data set comes in, right? You already have a good governance, you have stewards, you have data owners, everything defined. They already have glossary and all. You added one attribute. Now, what is the process for that attribute to represent in your catalog? Typically, right? What is the process? Somebody has. Exactly, right? You're putting an onus on people to know that there is new information flowing in. You're supposed to add a glossary to it. You're supposed to publish that into the catalog. Now, which is where we are talking about tech solving that problem, right? Active metadata capabilities. As soon as something new comes in, is it automatically triggering a workflow? In fact, if you use GenAI, are you putting in a glossary, a recommended glossary, and then just going to the human for approval, rather than a human trying to identify what is coming in, remove all that manual friction, right? Which is where technology can help solve that problem as well, but people should have the mindset to solve, right? It's again not an easy problem to solve, right? Which is why, at least in my experience, I haven't seen a good governance catalog framework that is truly adding value to any business or to any engineer at this time, right? A huge problem to solve. There are good capabilities like Snowflake Horizon, Databricks is heavily investing into UC, right? And there is a reason for it, right? So it's important for us to know all that. And if you have a highly defragmented data ecosystem, capabilities or technologies like Alation plays a big role, right? So understand that, but there is some engineering efficiencies that all of us can contribute to. Again, it's an unsolved problem, but tech can solve that problem, still putting people in the loop. So think of it that way. Hope I answered the question. Yeah.
So my question is about, so one thing I observed from the whole presentation is that the whole presentation is more from the data engineer's perspective. So, but as you understand, the data engineers are more on the consumer's part. So when you have consumers and producers, they are more on the consumer's part, although they are producers for the downstream systems. There is more on the software engineering side or the third-party integrations which create the systems and create the data. The main problem that I observed in my experience is that we can enforce a lot of things on the data engineering part, but let's say there is a changing schema or changing which is a very common problem when you have a third party integrations. And also if there is a feature requirement to some customer that they change their requirement and change whole schema, the downstream systems becomes quite a problematic. And I have seen on both the ends of the spectrum that people are very compliant on the data, so they don't change the data, because of which you don't get the data that you want. And on the other side, you have the data is quite frequently changing because the features are getting pushed out, cranked up every week. And so the main problem that I have observed is that either you have entire data that is just haphazardly moving around, or you have the data that you don't even want. So how do you deal with this kind of a system? I know there is no right answer and it is quite a difficult problem to solve. That how do you as a data engineer ask people to have, let's say the upstream people, to have this data compliance to be brought in? Because when they create data, this is not what they are thinking. They are thinking more in terms of features or in terms of how the customer uses, rather than the data is not their main concern. So how do you communicate, or how do you do this? As this is more on a cultural problem rather than a technological problem, as you understand.
So there are two things we are doing. Again, like you said, it's still a problem, right? It's not fully solved, but two approaches we are taking. One, put an onus on the producer of the data and shift left your data quality as much as possible. So you stop the data, bad data flowing in upfront rather than dealing it in the downstream, right? And what we are seeing being adopted heavily is, if you heard the concept of data contract, right? So people are producing these data contracts and leveraging the data contracts to shift left your data quality validation, bring the data in right, and put the onus on the producer to deliver right data to you, right? If not, then data engineers, like you rightly said, are struggling downstream because you're dealing with data quality issue because of a producer problem more time than actually delivering the true business value, right? So two important things that we are doing. In fact, Harsha is helping me with one GenAI use case to generate these data contracts automatically, right? But very important to put those data contracts, which is an agreement between your producer and us as data teams, make sure they always confine to that contractual agreement. But you need to systematically measure against the contract, right? If not, it becomes tough to manage with so many data contracts. So again, important data contracts, publish them in a repository. If Alation has the capability or any tool has the capability, put them in, but leverage those data contracts to apply your quality validations on the left while you acquire the data. Yeah.
So the question, as you mentioned, the data contract. So we have similar kind of a thing in place, but do you have any mechanism or a framework on how do you observe the data observability? How do you bring that data observability into place? Let's say we have a SLA of, let's say the data should be in this schema for 99% of time. Let's say that is our SLA. So do you have anything that you have put in place or anything that you are currently working on that might help us?
Yeah, maybe we should, we built our homegrown data observability tool.
Okay.
Right? It's built on top of Great Expectations. If you know Great Expectations, it's an open source library, but we have abstracted the complexities out of it and built our own homegrown data quality tool. And we are seeing adoption. In fact, Travelers adopted it for their enterprise. But again, I haven't seen many tools that are solving this as a whole. Very specific to observability, there are tools like Monte Carlo and all. But end of the day, it's a rule or an ML driven observability, right? You look at what is coming in, whether it's validated based on the rules you're defining, and then producing it into one common interface so you can monitor it from one unified interface. So there are tools that are solving this problem. Colibra is coming up with a lot of things. Alation has OpenDQ APIs, right? But we, because there isn't much in the industry that we could leverage, we built our own homegrown tool for it. We would be happy to give a demo maybe in one of the follow-up sessions, but it's an interesting tool. We are seeing a lot of interest on it, and we are bringing in a lot of maturity into it. But it in the back end, it leverages Great Expectations because Great Expectations is built on Python, open source, and there is a lot of community activity on it, right? So which is why we are leveraging. But we can discuss more. Again, unsolved problem, and we are trying to solve certain areas of it. Have time or shall we go to?
I have.
Yeah.
Spoke about governance and products domain space. What is your point of view on data mesh?
In fact, so data mesh, there is a lot of interest, right? But what is data mesh as a whole? Again, my understanding of it, right? Obviously governance is important part of it, but who owns what? And one of the things we were talking about is the producer of the data, who are the SMEs, own the data that they are landing into the data ecosystem. That's the crux of your mesh architecture, right? And then the product mindset we talked about. So everything you are delivering, make sure it has a value. Bring in that product mindset. If not, then you will deal like a project, right? So don't deal your data enhancements or data delivery as a project. Rather look at it as a product that has a value to attach to it, and then put onus on your producers who are the SMEs of the data, land it right, and then distributed ownership, right? Rather than centralized ownership. And for that to be successful, you need a proper governance. But the challenge we are facing is more with respect to ownership, people taking that ownership, than a technology problem to solve, right? For data mesh to be successful. And there aren't many people signing up to own the data there that is present in the data ecosystem, which is why the frameworks or the concepts of data mesh are, people are struggling to adopt it as a whole, but there are certain practices out of it everybody is bringing in, like data product culture and mindset, right, is widely adopted now. Producer ownership through data contracts, we are enforcing it, right, but they are not owning it, right? So there are certain principles of it we are seeing adoption, but data mesh as a whole, they are struggling to adopt it within enterprises because of the lack of people taking ownership and responsibility, but nothing else. So yeah, hope that answers, right?
I have one question. So these cataloging tools are important to reduce the manual efforts and accessing to data and understand the data and mapping related stuff. I just want to know who is responsible for populating these catalogs and working with these Alation tools and all. Generally, as a data engineers, they build pipelines and all, right?
Correct. It's so it's not a single team or a person's problem, it's an organizational problem, right? Engineers play a heavy role in it, but obviously you need a proper steward, owner, that whole framework identified and implemented. But engineers, if you are not giving value to it, then we are the ones that are struggling, right? And as an engineer, forget about data engineer or data analyst or somebody. The problem need to be solved in a way that we can apply more and more intelligence into it and make this framework sustainable. Problem what happened was engineers weren't putting any thought into it. It's primarily driven by your stewards and owners who are more on the business front, right? They don't know how to leverage technology to scale these solutions. So which is why engineers have to go solve the problem. Engineers need to have a mindset to leverage these good tools, technologies we have, and help them in building this framework, right? And in a sustainable and scalable way. But it's not, you can't say you are the data owner, data steward, you go figure out, right? Then that is why the programs are basically failing. So put in some thought, right? There's nothing wrong in solving a problem, correct? And there is problem at hand. But at least think of it, right? When you're acquiring data, when you're processing data, when you're modeling data, when you're publishing the data for consumption, if you don't have a quality first mindset, you are the one that is going to struggle and you will not be seen as value, correct? So, but you need to understand the quality frameworks, for example, right? You need to know how to leverage it, how to build it, how to publish the results, right? That is engineer's job, not anybody else's job. Okay, cool. We can talk more in the networking session. We'll be on the floor here. Again, thank you so much for coming. Happy to spend time with you. Hopefully you learned something out of it. And I'll request Siddharth. Again, Siddharth, thank you so much for coming from Pune, taking time for us. Welcome you to talk about Alation. Yep, thank you. Oh, we do have, okay. Sorry, Siddharth.
Yeah, thanks Gowtham for an interactive session on metadata governance and all. And even you have bring up some real use cases from Anblicks. That's too cool. And thanks audience for being so interactive, and especially Murthy, you're so interactive. Thanks for that. So now we are going to have a tea break for 20 minutes. So I request all of you to head over to the leftmost corner to the cafeteria, and we are going to regroup here promptly after 20 minutes. And at 11 o'clock, we are going to have the session of Siddharth, which is our guest today. Yeah, please have some tea and all. Guest speaker of today's masterclass, Mr. Siddharth from Alation. And he traveled all the way from Pune to Hyderabad just to provide insights on data and innovation. So it's my pleasure to welcome you, Siddharth, to Anblicks. And yeah, I request Siddharth to take over from here.
Hello. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the quick introduction, and I'm super excited. Had a good chat with you in this break, and look forward to this session. So just before we start, I think I just want to give you a background. I really like the way the last session went, the type of questions which come in. I'll try to answer some of those, try to provide my spin to it. But so yeah, that's the idea. So our session is around how do we scale data governance to enterprises. When we thought about this topic, me and Gowtham had that discussion. We were thinking about what changes in an enterprise per se. So if you think today the enterprise are more like multiverse. There are multi-models, multi-systems, multi-databases, multi-cloud, multi-observability and catalog systems and all that. So it's a very big mash of technologies and frameworks and all that. And now if you just add the AI, ML, especially the generative AI into the mix, it's make a little more complex. So we all work in a small area of that particular enterprise, in a specific technology, in a specific domain, in a specific department which we are in. My idea was to take it a little higher view of it, looking at an enterprise scale, and talk about that in that how these complexities are managed, how some of these initiatives are prioritized, and how some of these initiatives are carried out and add value to this thing. So that's at a very, very high level what I'm planning to cover today. As Gowtham said, I will also say the same thing, that it's an interactive session. Feel free to ask any question in between, and I look forward to have a good interaction with you. So let's start with that. So this is about me. It's a very boring picture. I just took it from the LinkedIn. Didn't get enough time to find something interesting. So what about me is, I've been in a data domain for a very long time. I'll just give you a gist around where I come from. So I started my career as an engineer. So I was with SAP Labs in Bangalore. And then I was in Waldorf for a few years and before I came back. So the whole idea is that I started with an engineering before I moved into the product side. And in the product also, I had a mix of experience, which is kind of give me a unique perspective. I've been into product companies which make tools. I was a long time Informatica, and now I just left Alation last month, but till I was here for last 2 years. So the idea is that I've been into this data space, product companies, but I also got an opportunity to be in the enterprises like BNY Mellon, Airbus. I've been into consulting for some time. So it gives a perspective that how these tools are being used in the enterprises and how they get value out of it, how they see this entire landscape and different tools in this landscape. So basically both that experience I bring in. So yeah, these are some of the things which I wanted to talk about. But other than that, I think in my previous life, when I used to be young, I had done an Everest base camp. Very excited about hiking is something which is my passion, long time passion. So this is about me, and then let's move on to the next slide. So I'll try to keep it crisp, but I think we already covered this side. So where we are talking about why data governance is more or less important, which we talked about, like there are compliance reasons, there are operational reasons, there are, at a very high level, if you think about it, data is something where people make good decision, right? So data-driven decision, or a more curious world as we talk about in Alation. So Alation is, I can talk about that, is more of a data intelligence platform. So catalog is a part of it, but I think it covers a lot of aspect around lineage and other things. But I think data provide you good decision-making frameworks. And if like every organization is talking about data-driven decisions, but if your data is not a good shape, you will make decisions which are not optimal, or you will infer things which are not optimal. Which can cost a lot. And the second point is, which I think Gowtham covered in his session with the city example, is the compliance reason, and the regulatory reason is it's equally important. So these are the two main things. But I mean, I think the whole idea is that how do we make data available for right people and application in the right condition while ensuring safety and security. Let's move on to it. So there are a lot of definition around data governance, and the idea why I want to put this particular slide is that most of the focus, when you look at the definition, they talk about decision right, policy, access, and all that stuff. But at a, sorry, yeah, this is like, I thought that have a more practical definition, which is, I think, very simple to think about. So it's a very, very simple way to think about is ensuring data in the right condition to support business initiatives. I mean, I think this is, I think, is a very simplistic definition. But I mean, I think it gives you a framework to think about, and this is the way I see the data governance. And I think we talked about in the last session. It is more of a, in my mind, any good data strategy is about two things. And there were some questions around data steward and what are the roles, who will manage the data, who owns it. I think we'll try to cover that. So that's the second piece is more about partnership between IT and business teams. I wanted to talk about one example of data governance. So I worked in the past with Bank of New York Mellon, and we were trying to build a fund performance application. So basically asset manager invest and they want to understand what is the performance of their investments or their portfolio is. So portfolio performance is more of a, when you think about it, it's not exactly a data problem. Because you can get data from many places, you get prices from Bloomberg, multiple other systems, your positions data is in your databases and all. But if you think about it, the main problem is how do you model it? How do you understand what drive performance? How do you do the attribution and all? That's a very, very domain specific thing. So when we think about data in a right shape to make decisions about your portfolio, decision about what to hold, what to sell, how a particular fund manager is doing and all that. So this is not something which data alone can solve. You can combine the data, you can do the integration, but you need to understand what exactly everything means. And that's where the curation or, for example, the business is required. So in such cases, I just wanted to highlight this case, which talks about that we need to have a good IT and business kind of a collaboration to solve these kind of problems. Go to the next one. So I'll come back to this slide, which I think sometime back somebody asked these questions as well, that what are the key roles and what exactly these people do, right? So there are basically in data governance, there are three main roles. I don't know, am I visible all across or is it like mic is too far? Perfect, awesome. So data steward is something like, you know, he is the guy who is more of a custodian. So it's a business side role with a deep domain knowledge. So he takes care of your data integrity. He defines those quality rules and monitor data. He take action to resolve the data issues with collaboration with IT. So typically, I mean, data steward is like when you build a governance team, you define your data steward on a particular domain or particular team. And this data steward's role is to make sure that the data is in the right place. And ideally, I mean, I think how does the data steward know that whether the data is correct or if there are any issues? So there you have profiling tools, you have quality tools, you have reports which actually tell him the health of that particular data. So there are a lot of companies which are around DQ health and all. I mean, Alation also have a product around DQ. Where we talk about monitor and gives this kind of a thing. But the core idea is that how the data steward define that data is fit for use. So that's where the curation come in. That's where you provide business definition. That's where you talk about where this data can be used and all. So this is typically the job of data steward. And all the tools we are talking about around the cataloging and all, data quality cataloging, this is trying to help or make the case for data stewards to make his job easier. Data stewards also make sometimes process changes so that we capture the right data for those decision making. So this is the role of a data steward. But when we talk about data steward, data owner is another role, which is typically, I mean, data steward is more of a execution role. So he do the curation, he look at the data health, he provide the definition, he work with the IT and all. While the data owner is more of an executive role. So he defined more of a, what we say, governance framework. Like, for example, access policies, all those things. And sometimes the data steward are little lower in the hierarchy of an enterprise. So when they have more of a confusion, questions, there are questions about different data domains and all. So in such case, the resolution happen with the data owner. And what is our role? I mean, I think this engineering team role is to make sure providing the right tools for data steward so that they can do their job easier. So that's where we are talking about the key roles, which is getting data into the shape where people can use it. Now we move to the next slide. Now this is a very, very tricky thing, and I think many people are talking about data has a very, very large surface area. And there are a lot of things around data quality, master data management, data observability and all that, right? So the whole idea is where should we invest our time and how an organization decide on that. So this is, I think, the question which was asked as well. So it's a very simple framework. I mean, when people, I mean, I think, so I give you my own example, and I don't want to take the name of the company, but it's a big logistics company. When I initially went in, and there was a data strategy in place, and they talked about that we will do data quality, we'll do master data management, there was a data catalog initiative, and they have business case around each one of them and all that. Fundamentally, it looks okay, but the acid test, which I always believe that you take out the name of the company out of it and give it to somebody who doesn't know about it. If he guess that what this company does, then basically it's a good strategy. If he's not able to guess, then it means it's a very, very generic thing. And that's what typically happens then when you have a lot of technical people who are trying to define the data strategy, because they go and they try to cover this large surface area, divide into multiple components, try to solve it. But this is not in an enterprise, and this is a short way of failure. Because one, you will not get a budget, but sometime most of the time the IT is a different department, a cost center, you get some budget somehow, but you will not be able to align, will not be able to show the impact and all. So everything has to derive from the business initiatives. So as a company, what do we really want to do? As a company, what are the key initiatives which we are going about? So like, for example, when I was with Merck's, one of their biggest initiative was decarbonization. So they want to reduce the carbon footprint. So this is a business initiative. Now all your data initiatives should roll into it. I mean, at least whatever you are trying to get funding from. So I mean, I'm going slightly differently, but I mean, I was more on annual funding cycles and all that. So where you build a case and try to get funds for your own projects and all. So the main problem is that if you try to take it separately out of it, you will get into the part where you will look at is more of a technical problem. But I mean, I think most of the companies now in the enterprise space, it's typically your funds come from business initiative, and that rolls down to your data governance or data strategy initiatives. So you have to align it with very closely. Most of the time you will be aligned to particular department, like either it is a marketing one, customer service one, or like I talked about, decarbonization is a big initiative, fund performance, like a big project which was going on. So, I mean, you have to align with one of the key objective and then see that to make that business initiative successful, what all data initiatives should take place. So that simplify that your decision making around what need to be done there. So typically I give two examples, but I mean, I think the core idea is that the business initiative should be something which we talked about in the last session as well, which either improve your like basically bottom lines or the top line. Either that improves the sales, or it reduces your cost, or it is something which is important for an organization. Like for example, if decarbonization is going on, you probably need to give a certificate, and to get that certificate, probably you need that traceability and all that stuff. I think we talked about lineage as well, and maybe I think I'll just digress because I heard that lineage question I wanted to answer. There was a H at that point in time. So lineage, when you think about lineage, you have to think in an enterprise is a very different from lineage as we see it as products. Because in an enterprise, there is the complete data pipeline, and there are across multiple systems. and where the sharing sometime possible, sometime not possible, and all that. So in such a scenario, we talk about lineage in two different parts. One is we call about intra-system lineage, which is typically that what is happening in your Snowflake or what is happening on your Power BI and all that. And the second is the cross-system lineage, that's where this data is coming from. And the cross-system lineage, the scope is always defined by what you are trying to achieve or what is the scope of that business initiative. So this is basically, I want to touch upon and talk about lineage, but want to put it in the same perspective that you have to think through that, okay, what as a company we are trying to achieve, and then what all data initiative, lineage, everything fits into that. We can move to the next slide. So now, since we have talked about, I think we talked about two main aspects around it. If you want to take away, one is like data governance, data strategy is always aligned to some business initiative. And the second point, which I emphasize so far, is like there has to be a constant or a very strong collaboration between IT and business. And from a business side, I talked about two roles which are very critical. Most of the organization defined it, steward and owner. So I just wanted to summarize before we jump into this. So this is like already covered in the last session, so I will try to keep it very crisp. But the core idea is that when you talk about data governance or data landscape, it covers in three main parts. One is curation of data, understanding your data, and protect your data. So when we are talking about, like, for example, I'll start with the curation piece first. So the data steward actually look at that whether all your data is fit for use. So in that, all your DQ framework comes in. When we are talking about it in an enterprise scope, the whole idea is you have done it for one particular initiative. Let's say, for example, you have done it for some marketing, for their marketing campaign, but you want to use it for your sales as well, your after support as well. So the same, because same customer will be there in all the places and all. So in such cases, you want to do it once and use it across. So the data sharing has become very important. So that's where the two main concepts come in, master data management and the data integration come in. So it's more of a curation side of thing. But other than that, your data should be searchable. Like we talked about catalog a lot. Like basically, you should not try to create the same product again and again. You should know that what your inventory look like and basically how it can be used and all. So that's where data catalog comes in, data lineage we talk about, data profiling, I think at a high level we talked about, which will help you to curate it better. So yeah, I mean, I think this is like the curate part come in, and then the protect aspect is very important, which is around data security, compliance, and the data lifecycle. So basically, when do you retire your data? Who can use it? People want to use it like in companies, like for example, some people will have access to part of the data. Or for example, they might have access only when they are doing certain activities and all that. So all those frameworks fit in there. Now, when we are talking about, this is more of a theoretical framework, but when you look at different products, they fit in different pieces of it. For example, when I was with Informatica, you think about Curate, they were very heavy. They have a lot of, like, of course, they have data security aspects of it, and as well as your search and discoverability, which is typically your catalog piece fit in. When I was with Alation also fits in most of the things we do. And I think we talked about one more concept around data observability, where Monte Carlo, Excel data, many of the companies actually fits in. Now there are a lot of ML observability tools also fit in. So this is slightly dated, but it gives you an idea that how data governance and ML analytics framework look like. Now comes to the second part. I think we started with that business initiative and what we want to do. So now people want to see whether I should invest in a data quality, right? So the concept is data quality is like a never-ending kind of a task. So you define your scope very well. So this is the table which I put in, and it's blank deliberately because this generally we kind of fits in. So we are saying that what is the applicability of the targeted initiatives. So once you define your initiatives, you want to look at, I put around 8-9 dimensions. There could be few more, which we can later on put in. But I mean, these are as a framework, this gives you an idea that. So you have to go through all of this and talk about that, okay, if let's say, for example, quality is bad. So first of all, you have to define what is quality in this particular initiative sense, right? And then you have to see that, let's say, for example, if I don't invest in this quality initiative, then will somebody cry? Right. So that's a very, very standard framework when you decide on it. Mostly at an enterprise level, when I have seen that mostly we do an annual kind of a product review. This is more of a yearly business review, YBR as we call it, and we also have QBR kind of a thing. So in that, you look at all the initiatives and you talk about that which initiatives get funding. So in such cases, you should have a framework around it that, okay, if you don't do it, who will get impacted? And if the people are getting impacted, do the value enough, right? For example, and that is also like, one is like not only in terms of capability, but in that capability, what exactly you want to do. Like if you want to improve the data quality, you have to define the data quality with respect to that particular initiative. Because otherwise you will go all over the place. Master data management, you will define exactly if you are doing the customer data, product data on this, you want to do the master data management, you have to define very specifically what you are trying to achieve. And for that, where are the boundaries? Beyond that, typically we don't try to do too many things at one go, because data initiatives or data strategies, again, done in phases. You don't do it at one go. And you don't try to make a score kind of a thing. Many places I have seen that there are abstract score. So abstract score doesn't work. It has to be score with respect to particular initiative or the application you are trying to support. I think this is, I want to take a break and see if there are any question I can answer before we jump on to the next part of it.
We are going to ingest the data between the two systems. So as a Alation, I just want to know the data lineage between the source and target, because these are different systems. So in SAP, we have a different model segment. SAP is different. So how do we set up the kind of cross-system data lineage in the Alation?
So Alation, typically we do the metadata management tools. So basically you do the metadata extraction from multiple tools, and that we also take something called QLI, which is query log ingestion, and based on that we stitch that lineage. And sometime, I mean, I think this is the way we typically go about. And then like for example, you are moving data from SAP to Snowflake, there will be a ETL, ELT tool in between as well. So the whole idea is that we stitch it from, so look about the lineage use case in particular. Like for example, I'm looking at a report, I'm a data analyst, I'm submitting this report, and some questions come, and I want to understand where this data is coming from. So to your question, whether those SAP tables that have that data, or like it has to do some kind of a transformation in between, or for example, this is not the right table. So this is the kind of information, kind of like when you try and see that, okay, whether I can trust that data is like where you are trying to understand the lineage part of it. So when you're trying to understand it, generally normally start from a report, dashboard, or some metrics which you said that you are presenting, and then you are going backward that, okay, this comes from, let's say Snowflake, it came from some transformation in DBT, and that it moved from, let's say for example, SAP to Snowflake through Informatica, so that in between, and then SAP. So that's how you build that lineage. And we talk about lineage two part. One is the table level lineage, one is column level lineage. Column level lineage generally tells you that which columns are being used. Table level is like more at abstract level. We generally go table level for the reason many a time that column level mapping is not available. So, but I mean, I think wherever possible, people go with the column level lineage. I hope that answered your question.
So,
Yeah, so ideally ADF should publish that information into Alation, and Alation would stitch everything together. Correct, yeah.
So if you are putting all the systems there, then it will pick up that lineage. Sometime you have to do minor if you have missing pieces in between, then you can manually ingest as well. So we provide that capability as well. But in general, like if you have the in the lineage chain all the systems in Alation, we will automatically create that lineage. Okay, we can move on.
My question, I have one question.
Sure.
It's around the relationship between the data steward and the IT team who are supposed to support the steward. So usually stewards are dropped with a parachute into the team because we expect them to have a business sense. And so whenever the steward expects responses from the IT team, the questions probe around the actual implementation, and the responses from IT team will be like, are you supposed to know this kind of thing? So how do we establish that working relationship and identify the boundaries so that the stewards get the information they need to do their job, and at the same time we respect the boundaries of engineering teams as well?
I think a very interesting question. No, you see this tussle many other places where the one role finishes and the other role starts. Look, the whole idea is that, as I said, that what you are trying to achieve, and then everything flow backward from there. So once you have defined that what your data, maybe I think I'll cover the next slide and we can come back to it. But the question is right. I mean, I think the IT role is to provide the framework and the health, the tools. So tools are more like a curation tool. Alation provide a fantastic data curation tool. Nowadays we are talking about Gen AI and other stuff as well, which we are going to cover is basically for help in that curation and all. Then there are tools available around observability, lineage and all, which will help a data steward to understand. Like the lineage question, the data steward should be able to understand that if I am calculating the performance of particular fund, then what all data should I consider? And he should be able to talk about that. And then he should be able to see that lineage graph and see that whether it is right or not. So the lineage graph is a responsibility of the IT team. That typically your data quality and the profiling team, which you are talking about, is also a responsibility of a lineage team. And yeah, this is like, IT team. And then the definition, curation is a responsibility of a steward. But nowadays we also do a lot of curation, which is through the AI ML driven, which we can touch upon a little bit later, but that is also a possibility nowadays. So we are making both the side easier. The tools are trying to take the load from each other, but the governance oversight is definitely a responsibility for a steward. So, okay, next.
Just one connecting question related to the metadata.
Yeah, sorry.
So one connecting question related to the metadata. If the metadata from the source is continuously changing, frequently changing, how Alation ensures the updated metadata to the developers who are using it and the consumers?
Yeah, so if the metadata is changing, then mainly I think your lineage graph and other things will change, your search and other things are changing. So it depends on that, how frequently you are doing your metadata extraction. Are you doing an incremental load? Are you doing the complete reload? And we also have active data management, which allows that more of a streaming kind of a scenario as well. So all those things are supported. But the whole idea is that how frequently you update it, how is these things are set up and for what use cases, right? So typically, I mean, I think Alation people use for more search and discoverability. Second is more around the lineage use case, which we have seen it. And third is observability, data quality use cases. Okay. I'll get back to it. And I think we talked about a data strategy kind of a roadmap. This I have taken it from some of the AWS one. So it's a online taken a graph. So don't worry about too much around what is written out there. I haven't read that too. But I think this gives you a framework to think about it. So your roadmap starts from a business initiative, right? So business initiatives are more around, is not something which should be that, okay, we want to do a data catalog and the data catalog will provide this kind of efficiency gain and all that. That's not a great idea to start your business case with. Your business case should be the initiative which the organization care about. So here I think there are two main initiatives which people have put it, and these are like, more of a as an example, but there could be anything. Like for example, for city, it could be the governance into place, the compliance to certain regulation and all that. That could be your business case and all. So, but business case are more like which the business care about, and everything flows from there. And to support that business case, typically you will have some applications. There will be some data products, some applications and all that, which fits in little below there, which is, I think, there will be tools around policy review, customer app, next best, AI-enabled next best action kind of thing. So typically your business initiative come on the top, where the funding comes from, and that business initiative, to achieve that, there will be application, enhancements and everything which comes a little lower, which is your application and use cases. And to enable those application and use cases, you define your data domains. And that's where the data engineering teams comes into picture. And defining those data domains, you work very closely with your steward. And those data domains are defined like basically which is you're putting your data in a way that it will support that application. So you decide the boundary that, okay, what all will go there, what is the master data, what is the transaction data, what is, for example, the definition that where it can be. There can be shared data. Nowadays, I mean, I think I was in a BFSI kind of a scenario, so I come with that background. So where you see a lot of data is not within your organization. I mean, I think your, for example, if you are having some shares, you have how many shares you have in your database, but the pricing will come from, let's say, Bloomberg or some of the market, Nifty and all. So that pricing is more of the feed which is coming in. So not all the data is with you, but you have to define that what it exactly means. And now, so that's basically the data domains comes into picture. But once you have defined your data domain, on top of it, the next two, I mean, I think this is covering some part of it. Can we remove it? Just try one backslash. Just a little more. That's okay, leave it. Go to the next slide. So here we are talking about two main things. One is the data management capabilities. So in which you define your master data, your quality management, your feature store, your lineage, data quality framework, everything comes in the data management. And below that is the architecture. And this is like we are talking about everything flows from a business initiative, and we have talked about, if you see it, you started with what is the business case, what it means for IT, when it means to IT, then what exactly, which data domain we want. And that's there. The data domain is like typically the steward job. The below that data capability, data architecture. This is typically where the IT teams fits in. And in the lower part, you also talk about the operating model. Because as you said, the data steward has done it in the beginning. You have done the implementation, and then you are realizing that the business is not happy. Some dates are, they are saying this report calculation is incorrect. Or for example, you have used some of the data which you should not have, and those kind of a thing. So there you have to define kind of an operating model where this is getting reviewed. And typically what happens is that these things are more evolving. Like for example, you have developed it, now you want to extend your governance model to, let's say for example, new AI ML framework which is coming in. So you have a data governance in place, but you want to have a model governance as well. And there will be a new concept around feature store and all those things. So those are the things which comes under your operating model, is like how often these data steward and you meet, what is your handoff mechanism, and which I think we talked about some time back, that what is the boundary. So that comes from that handoff mechanism. Like basically when the issue comes, how do you review it? What are the tools you are providing to him? If he's doesn't have all the information, like for example, where this data is coming from, why you have used these files, where you should have taken some database tables. So all these questions, everything need to be answered. Or this file is like, let's say for example, every week it is getting changed. So those information had to be provided to your IT team. So that's where he need to understand the process as well. And sometimes he need to make changes to the process so that you capture the right information. So this is more of a framework, but I just want to touch up and talk about that, how this entire thing flows. We can go to the next slide. So now we have talked about so far that how do we get our data in place, right, at a very, very high level. But we also want to talk about that, what are the key roles, who use these platforms, and data governance. So there are like three main things which actually use this data platform. So you talk about, one is the data producers, where we talk about data stewards, where we talk about data owners and all that. Then I think we talked about data consumers. So data consumers are application, business users and all. But in most of the organization, you have one big consumer, which is like data analyst, which we touched upon. So data analyst is typically building their models, dashboard, data products on top of it. So they are more on the consumer side. And then there is a central data team, which is a combination of typically you will see it in typically every department. They are mostly aligned to typical departments. You will have one for the marketing, one for the finance and all that. Their main job is to ensure that your so there is a one data team which is aligned to department, but in an enterprise you have a central data team. The issue, what they solve is the integration issues. So for example, if you have like, it's a very standard example which everybody use in the banks. So in a bank, you give same customer multiple services. You gave him loans, he also have a house loan, and then you have given him a credit card, he also have a saving account with you, salary account with you. So all these are different departments, but how this data is all connected is like that integration, and everything is done by the central data teams. So like I gave an example of a retail as well. But it's like, for example, your product data, that they manage the product data, consumer analyze the trend, and the central team ensure consistency across domains. So it's more of a retail example, but very similar, right? So this gives you a framework to think about what producer does, what consumers does, and what the role of a central team. The whole idea is that at this point in time, when we think about the modern data community, we need to make sure that how much to centralize and how much to decentralize. Sometime, I mean, if you too much of decentralization happen, then basically your data is more fragmented. If you try to do too much of centralization, then I think you will see that multiple departments shouting that they are not getting what they need and all. So typically it's a balancing act, but there will be a central team and there will be multiple satellite teams. So your data teams are normally divided into these two parts. You can move that next slide. So this is the one, I think I covered most of the part, and I'll just summarize it. I think we talked about everything aligned from the business initiatives. We talked about there is a close collaboration between business and IT. We talk about what are the roles in curation piece. How do you prioritize the initiative? How a strategy flow from business initiative to everything which we talked about, data engineering and all. I just want to touch upon one more part is around machine learning or AI, and nowadays we are talking about generative AI. So when I was with Alation, we used to think about Gen AI or AI in two ways. One is AI for Alation and second is Alation for AI. Right. So let me explain this a little further. So when we are talking about AI for Alation is to talk about that how do we make it easier for people to use Alation? How do we make easier for them to for example, curate it easily, find out all the anomalies in the data quality and all that faster and all that. So that's where we are thinking about like auto description of things, stitching the lineage or possible lineage kind of a scenario. So those are the things like AI for Alation. And Alation for AI means, I mean, I think once you have a very good catalog, this scenario, I mean, I think so in a data as well, like where this data is being used. So machine learning and AI, the same problem happens. Like for example, let's say I'm trying to automate some claim process in an insurance company. So if I'm trying to do a claim process automation, then basically the data is very important because you need to understand what all data should be there in the claim. What are the policy data? What are this customer data? All this need to be combined by a business person and enabled by IT so that you can do the auto processing of claim or maybe do a faster processing of claims, right? So this is how the business use case is. But the moment you put AI or generative AI into it, then what is happening, it is also taking a lot of information which is come in terms of picture, in terms of the description and all that. So that makes it a little more complex. Till the time your data governance was only focused around the structured data. Now the unstructured data comes into picture. So but the core idea is that, I mean, I think in a data governance or AI governance, what I have seen is that it also follows the same process. You start with the business initiative. Let's say, for example, in this case, we are talking about claim processing timeline we want to reduce. We want to reduce the fraud and all that. So those are the business initiative which goes in. What data has to go through, and what from the AI ML perspective, there are like till the time we are talking about data and all. I mean, I think with the AI, there's something called feature store which also become equally important. So, I mean, I think when I was with Alation, we were all thinking about that how do we store this feature? How do we store the model performance? How do we store the model uses and all? And which will enable the same thing, that who can use it, whether it is fit for use. Again, the same data steward, all these concepts are more or less similar. So people are trying to fit in on the same thing, but at the same time, they are trying to increase the scope. So your data category will have something like feature store and all. The other thing which is tricky, which comes with AI ML, is more on a governance piece. So for example, like when you are training your models, you use this data, and which you can use, what you can't use and all that. So that's where nowadays there is a data steward. So there is something called on the ML side, I have seen in the companies, a new role is emerging, which is more of a, if I put it, I mean, I think there are different companies use different names, but they are more the ethic committee. So you will find more and more ethic committee into the picture, which will use the same thing which the data steward does, but those are like more into that, who can use it, what are the compliance, whether we can use customer data to train this, whether there is some privacy concern, some regulatory concern and all. So they are more expert into that area. Let's move on. I think I wanted to leave you with this thought, that how do we scale governance into enterprise. I think we talked about, since it's a more complex multi-application kind of a scenario, we have to always think in terms of initiative, go through about it. We talked a little bit about AI ML, we talk about the role in the producer side of it, we talked about what are the key roles, what are the role of an IT, how the application landscape look like. So I try to give you a more high level view. That's what we were thinking about, but happy to take any question from now.
My question is around AI governance. So as you rightly called out, the governance of the AI models is split between ethics committees at executive level and the engineering teams who are already trying to improve the data. They are trying to put in, trying to get the right data. So what does the middle person do?
Yeah, I talked about a steward. So typically the steward ethics committee will also have the similar structure. In the data side, you have seen data steward and data owners. Data owners are more of an executive level, which is defining that which data can be used, who are more of a sponsor, who can say that, okay, if some minor process changes are required, if new tool is required, they can approve it and all. So those are the data owners, but data steward is the typically who will do the translation job. So in an ethics committee is a very, very similar role. They call it differently, but AI model steward or something like that, I've seen it. Most of the company use different tools. Right now, I think this field is so new that some of the companies I have seen when we try to integrate Alation with them, they use something called model cards. So those are the things which typically your model developers and the ethics committee typically manage that. And this which we used to get. The whole idea is that over the time it has to become more intelligent. But I mean, I think as of now, there are a lot of things around ethics and all which are doing manually. So they used to manage it in their model card systems and used to pull it from there. I'm happy to talk if you have any specific example, but yeah, this is how it goes. What do you mean by advanced? So I mean, I think this is a slightly loaded question, so I'll try to divide it. When you're talking about, you need to define the boundary that what that particular tool is trying to do. Because when you talk about AWS have a lot of other features. They have Bedrock, they have a lot of ML ops kind of a systems as well. So, I mean, I think not all functionality in a data intelligence tool is available. But to answer your questions, I mean, I think we do provide, you can look at all your, like for example, search and discovery is a big use case. But I mean, I think after doing that search and discovery, if you want to query your underlying systems and all, we do have Compose. And then it also gives you capability to run few things around understanding the lineage. It gives you a lot of capability around curating the data catalog. So that's where we fit in. We also give a lot of insight around data quality. So this is where Alation fits in. And this is more of a best of the breed tool, but typically around a particular domain. While when you are trying to say AWS, you have to find a AWS very simple comparison. Of a very comparative tool. The value of Alation, which is true, I mean, I think I worked with Informatica, as I said in my background. So both the companies does the same thing. So if you think about it, you will have a parallel product in AWS or, for example, Azure system, but that is well integrated in their ecosystem. The whole idea about these products is like people do multi-cloud and they also have some of the on-prem systems as well. So that's where they need a tool like Alation or like, for example, Informatica or these kind of a tool which integrate all these aspects.
Particularly if you have like cross-cloud, cross-platform architectures, right? AWS can't solve that problem, right? Or they won't be willing to solve that problem. That's where tools like Alation come in. But like Siddharth was rightly saying, right? Understanding what kind of integrations you need, what kind of capabilities you would need. For example, text to SQL, is Alation the right tool to leverage it, right? Or do you push it out? Again, since they have a lot of metadata around stored within Alation, your text to SQL would be more powerful. Right, but ideal comparison to AWS would be Glue Catalog, for example, right, in Azure's ecosystem purview. And they are very limited to that specific cloud ecosystem, or like Snowflake is limited to Horizon. Horizon is limited to Snowflake, right, as a data store. Alation stands a little above all this, where they are integrating with like Glue Catalogs, they are integrating with Snowflakes of the world, UCs, and then bringing it one level up. So they do have a lot of capabilities, but it's good to test those capabilities, test those integrations at scale, and before you finalize a tool, right, as a choice. Hope answers.
Yep.
I have one.
So as a data analyst, I just want to know the column density of particular tables, if you say example one table, so what is the distinctive values for that particular column? What is the min value? What is the max value? What is the filling percentage? Like 100% filled, or how many unfilled values? So I just want to know all this information from the Alation. Is it possible? If yes, how we are going?
We do have a data profiling tool. So what you are talking about is more fitting into data profiling aspect of thing. So we do have a profiling tool which have this information, and we also do some kind of a sample data as well. So you can see sample columns, sample rows and all that, depending on that whether you have to do it. And there you also do kind of anonymization and security concern people have, like for example, even if the sample data. So you can do a lot of masking and all, but at a column level or at a field level, so that you can do it.
So in that case, as you mentioned that the masking policies, okay. So how do you implement that masking policies? Because I just want to, I cannot see all the data because of the data governance. So because we have our own masking policies at our, DB level, okay. So if you not applied that DB level, then how do we, achieve that masking policies at the Alation level?
No, I mean, I think it's an interesting question, but the point is, at Alation, you can control that what you want to bring in Alation, because it's a third-party tool at the end of it. So people want to make sure that like I talk to so many Fortune 100 companies, and they have a very strong compliance policies, that what kind of access or authorization you can give to a third-party tool. So that's one piece of it. Now you're asking a second piece, which is more around, like you are saying at a DB level you're not allowed. Can you see it in Alation? I think no. Because when your access is, we honor that what access is there in the source system. So you can't have the higher access in Alation. That is not possible. But in accesses in Alation, you can do a lower than that. Like basically you can say that, okay, when I'm taking a data profiling, that point in time, I don't want these columns to fit in, or these, like for example, it has the customer names into it, or so you can just click on that, and then basically it will skip that.
Okay.
So we provide those configuration options.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to leave you with these thoughts. More of them are aligned with people who are into governance and running these programs, but it is more around people like you understand that what goes through, so that you can understand the language better, contribute better, and think what is important. So in this case, like for example, business initiative require constant audit. You need to evaluate your data readiness on a regular basis. Governance capabilities are always done, or the data capabilities are always developed incrementally and always aligned to, for example, business initiative. But the whole idea is that's where the sharing and scaling comes, that you have done it for one initiative, then you should be able to scale it to other one. Like the example we took, like if you have done it for marketing, you should be able to take the same master data to, for example, the other places as well. And when you are trying to scale that, you need to understand that common definition, and that's where the catalog and the lineage and many of these tools fits in. So this is all about it. This is I wanted to cover. The last slide, maybe I think we'll just touch upon and we'll come back to this, is, yeah, go back. So these are like some of the references you can actually look at if you're interested in data strategy and all. Alation has a great page, I think, and when I built this presentation, I referred some of the AWS and the Databricks data governance as well, just to align and give it a more industry view into it, rather than keeping it very specific to Alation. So yeah, towards the end, it's important to give your references, because not everything is like what we are saying. So go back and we can. Okay, so yeah, you have some questions.
Hey, hi Siddharth. So I just want to know in terms of analytics, like do we have any dashboard capability here to build and see where we stand in terms of KPIs or any general stuff in terms of proper governance?
Yeah, typically, I think you are talking about data products, and so no, there are two. Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah, and so like in Colibra, we have dashboard capability. Like we can build some in general KPI scores where we can go and see like how many we have rules ingested in Colibra. So like that, do we have something here?
Yeah, very similar. I think you can think about all the data catalog tools or the governance tools. They have very similar capabilities around it. So you can see all that, and then I think you have a lot of usage data as well. So for example, you will understand that which tables and what are the uses, which are the most popular attributes, where the changes have been made, and all that, and you can flag many of those things. So all those capability exist in Alation as well.
Okay, so in one of your slide you were mentioning like data life cycle. So like how does it will be helpful for any audit trials? Like you also mentioned like we have features as enablers, sorry, governance as an enabler. So where you talk about like features and all stories can be defined here. So how about the data life cycle? Like if you want to showcase it to some audit trial where any BCBS audit got happened in the organization.
So when you are talking about audit trail, so basically that's more of a pipeline review, right? I mean, you are trying to understand where this data is coming from, where these reports are being generated.
Yeah, it depends, like Privacy Act Bureau, right? If any, they want to find out, like if any customer data, like in banking, if you have customer data which is falling on the system, it's waiting in the system for 20 years and the customer already left in 2007. We do have retention policies for that. So that's what about the data life cycle is talk about. So how are we having that all structured here?
Okay, I mean, I think there's some gap, but I mean, I think some of the things which I talked about are more fundamental, that governance at enterprise level. Not necessarily everything I said is exactly the Alation features per se. Okay. I mean, I touched upon where we have features around it, but it's more of a conceptual view around it. But to your point, I mean, I think you have to go through the same way, that what are the compliance report, what exactly we need, where this data will come from, who will certify this data, which tools will use to extract it, which tools will be used to report it. So, I mean, I think how do you check the quality of this, any anomaly, how will you report, what are the flow when you see that there is a breach which has happened, what are the flows around it. So all those has to be defined in your process. And that's typically that's where the data steward and all this, we talked about aligning IT and business comes into picture. So I'm not giving you a direct answer that how a typical tool will do, but this is the process or the framework which goes about. So whatever is important, the IT is to enable it, but before you need to make sure that why this is important and what are the boundaries around it, how will you measure success. So
I have one question around the governance strategy.
Yeah, so I can't speak for Alation if it has that capability, but we have built like custom frameworks to manage the life cycle of the data, like you're saying, right? The retention policies, usually you have like hot, cold, like we call it frozen, right? So you move data across these layers and make sure the retention policies are well defined and managed. Because end of the day, if you are not using the information, it's waste of keeping it, right? It leads to more breaches. So we built it custom within the data frameworks. If Alation or any tool at that level has a capability, it's good, but you need to be able to integrate that into your data processing engines, right? Because that's where you actually do the data movement. But again, when you move, again, I worked with JPMC, right? I'm assuming you're coming from a banking background because you're speaking for it, BCBS and all. But how do you create a federated layer to consume the data from all these three different archival layers, right? Is also important. But with new capabilities like your Fabric One Lakes or Snowflake and Databricks, more storage is not, it's not tough to manage, right? The performance is much better than our older data platforms, but archival more because you don't want to keep it if you're not using it is more important, and we can plug that into your data frameworks. But if you can abstract it out, that's a really good capability to have. I don't know if Alation has it, but we can go check.
I have a question.
I think like what I was saying is you have to set it up. I mean, I think we will have some of these functionality, but I mean, you have to set it up and you have to define what exactly you're trying to do. And then based on that, yeah, sorry.
I have a question around the governance strategy. So you've suggested that we have to align it to the business initiatives. So that caters to the work that we have to do going forward. So, but we already have a lot of data in the system. How do we handle that? What is a feasible approach and a practical approach to deal with the data that is already there in the system?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about, I touched upon that, okay, what are the initiative and what we are trying to achieve, and then the current state view, which is talking about that, okay, you say that there are quality gaps. Are those quality gaps impacting? If it's impacting, then how do you prioritize? That is where I was going into. Okay. So basically, like if you have defined that, okay, what exactly you are trying to serve and all, then the prioritization will become easier. Like okay. When you say customer data, you want to build an MDM, but then effectively you know that there are certain things missing, but then you will define that, okay, which market, which places the company is operating, and if that area and that particular segment is fine, that the remaining one you can live with, right? So you do it in phases. The whole idea is not that we try to the point I was making is that this done in a more incremental fashion. So you look at that what you are trying to achieve, where you are right now, and then build on top of it.
One more thing I want to curiously know. So this metadata management, data security, and profiling of the data, these all comes under data governance, right? So once everything is done and we have the right data to use, so this Alation does have the capability to give the insights how best we can use the data according to the business requirements of the clients.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do have a lot of such capabilities. Like for example, like we can define. So the basically auto curation which we talked about is like more around that. Is like which are the most popular tables, the most popular this thing, and then we also have compose kind of a scenario where you can look at. We also provide you a lot of information around that, which tables, which columns are used, how many times, what kind of a user, and all that. So all those things are there. Depending on your use case, you can definitely set it up, and of course, if you have a very specific scenario, we have to test it out and check that whether that can be supported.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Creating the data definition. Okay, so we have almost like 10 different data sources, and each data source has some multiple tables, multiple columns, and for each and everything I have to manually create the data definition. So is there any way or any capability in Alation to automate it and do it quicker?
I think
faster?
there are auto curation tools which are available where you can create descriptions, you can create tags, you can I mean, I think you use your catalog pages, right, which you typically see.
Yes.
So there are a lot of capability around that. I mean, I think we can take it offline, but we can talk about that. But yeah, there are a lot of tools around that. The whole idea is that how to make it simpler for data steward. So one is giving them a view that what is the current state look like, and second is like what are the improvement required and all that. So both the things are possible. So, but I mean, exact features. I mean, I can't give a demo here, but. Like if Anthony would have been there, he would have given you that demo, that how this curation happened, and many of the questions are coming from that side. I think a demo will be helpful. Maybe I think we can arrange, or maybe recorded demo that would be helpful for everybody to look at.
Thank you.
Hi, Siddharth. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So this Alation tool take the data lineage from source system to across the enterprise tools. And let's say a data is, and we update some masking policies. And when it goes to the tools like Tableau or Cognos, they have their analytical layer, and people might forget applying the same masking rules or policies. So as you said, AI for Atlan, and can we have the recommendations to that attributes saying that at source, this is having some masking policies, and it is good to have the same masking policies here as well. Is this use case available in Alation?
Interesting question, which you are asking that data you have masking or the rules at a. So I think we talked about it in some way, where we talked about at an enterprise, you have to look at your systems holistically, where basically you define your data domain, and in that domain level you define those masking rules and all. So that's typically any application picking it up inherit those, or at least understand those, because you asking a very interesting question that in Tableau it is not there. I think that should be the first place where you should apply the masking rules, because BI tools have a larger visibility. So people are more careful around that. I think somewhere you have seen in the source system it get missed. So this is an interesting question when you ask, because BI tools are the first one to apply that. As of now, I think Alation, to my understanding, and I'm not expert in all areas of it. I mean, so I come from a product management background. I was director for their platform components, which is mainly around connectivity, lineage, and those pieces. So I can't confirmatively say that whether you can apply the data domain policy somewhere and that's applicable everywhere. Normally, I mean, I think Alation is more of a one-way tool. So for example, we take metadata from Tableau and then help you curate that, but we don't typically write back to that. So when you are talking about that the masking is not defined, I mean, I think his questions was a very opposite question. When he was asking that, okay, I have defined it in Tableau, can I see it in Alation? So my answer was no.
Yeah,
But in
maybe-
your question, it's a different one, that where you are saying that you know the domain level, we should not provide this, we should flag it. As of now, I think I'm not sure, but I mean, I think there are changes keep happening. So if this feature has come in later releases, I'm not aware. So I can't confirmatively say, but should be possible, like, because you know that there are authentication which were different at a source level, and the downstream application like BI or, for example, any other analytical tool, if it is not there, you should be able to flag it out.
I'm just asking about the recommendations. So let's say even if it is missed at the, let's not talk about Tableau. Let's take Cognos. It builds its own cubes. It has own processing data available and kind of users who are using the data. So if we have the recommendation at that attribute level, hey, from this source, it has some masking, privacy. So it's better to have the same policies or limitations applied here as well as AA capability rather than Alation capability.
No, I mean, you are right. I mean, ideally we should do that. That's where the central system and the central data steward, data domain definition comes in. Is basically you define even if you are getting some file, you define at that file level that, okay, which columns are sensitive, which has PII, which are like sensitive data and all that. So you define at that level, and whenever it flows through your system through a lineage flow, you should all the applications should honor those kind of a thing. So for example, when I'm viewing it, I should be able to see that, okay, this data is coming from this file. In this file, this information was PII. So I should flag that up. So some of the things, I mean, I think can be automated. Some of the things are goes as a recommendation to a data steward, and he takes a call that what need to be done. So depending on that, both the possibilities are there. One is the automated curation, and second is the like assisted curation by a data steward.
One more question. When comparing this Alation and what are the we have in Alation?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good one. Maybe I think we can do a demo, and then people will come to know more about it. But the main differentiation I talked about is mainly one. It is if you ask me personally, I mean, I think what I liked about Alation is like it's a very, very business analyst friendly tool. It is I mean, I think when we used to take call, we used to say our primary persona is business analyst. So it is more geared towards that. That's one of the very big differentiators. So our lineage, which you see, I was part of the lineage when it was built in Informatica almost a decade back. It was a very meshy kind of a scenario, like very difficult to interpret and all. When I go to Alation, and I think some of the new tools as well, it's a very clean. It's very easy to understand, very easy to see exception and all. The UI has evolved a lot. The whole idea is that every product you see is a package. So in this case, we prioritize like what the business analyst or a data steward would need. We don't prioritize what a data engineer, like for example, if you want to do your impact analysis or for example, a root cause analysis kind of a thing, it is not the best tool. I would say that you ideally go to, let's say for example, DBT or Informatica and do it there, or Snowflake and do it there, rather than trying to do a root cause analysis or debugging on Alation. But if you are a business analyst and you want to understand what are the exceptions, what are the use case which you talk about, this is a sensitive data, but I mean, it's not marked as sensitive and all those kind of information, it provide a very beautiful user-friendly tool. So that's the thought I want to leave with. But as I said, and I want to say it again, I left Alation last month, so I'm not representing the company in any way whatsoever. So that's the reason I'm trying to avoid some of the questions, but Gowtham can probably arrange another one with somebody in Alation, because it's not fair on my part to comment on certain features and all. Whatever I know, I will definitely share. That's the reason we don't have a demo today as well.
Sure. Thanks, Siddharth.
So as I said that right now, I mean, I think as per my understanding, my best understanding, it's a one-way tool. We do take metadata from teams and take a lot of those information, but Alation doesn't push back to teams, not to do the write back. So I'm not sure what your exact use case was, but
like this feature is there or not?
You identify some attribute that is potentially a AI. Instead of like effectively a data steward coming in to identify what wrong attributes to take, it is no personalization at point in time. Alation send an alert integration back into Teams is what I think the use case you are referring to, right?
Yeah, I haven't tried that personally, but so it may be or may not be, but I have not tried it.
And joint editing thing is there?
Sorry?
Like more than one people, if they want to edit something, so that feature is there?
Yeah, collaborative editing and all those features are there. So collaborative curation and all that features, those are there in Alation. What you are asking is specific use case. So in my opinion, I have not tried it, so I can't comment whether it is there with the teams, but should be there. Maybe we can check. We have to try it out.
So in the data catalog, so say like initially when the source is having 10 columns as a metadata, okay, and in the incremental side, say they don't want the sum of the 5 column which that was like old column, they don't want in the incremental data. So now we have like 5 columns. So this kind of automatic metadata updation is there in data catalog, Alation data catalog.
So auto update, I mean, I think I didn't get the question right.
Auto refresh of metadata.
Yeah. I said that you do a metadata extraction through your jobs, right? So when you build a connector, you do a metadata extraction. If you are doing an incremental update, so all those changes will flow in. So you can set that up. Okay, then I think thanks a lot, and of course I'm there for some more time. Maybe I think we can connect. Any other question I can help with? Happy to help, and stay connected. And it was fantastic talking to all of you. Thanks Gowtham for inviting, and it was a wonderful session, and like meeting all of you wonderful guys, and happy to help in any way. Stay connected. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Siddharth, for an enlightening session filled with actionable insights. So, yeah, so your expertise and your innovation thoughts have inspired us to rethink how we can build a scalable solutions with the help of AI and governance. Thank you for that. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed 2 sessions, right? Everyone? Okay. So we just want to hear back from you how you felt with the masterclass we have conducted here. So for that, we are going to provide you a hashtag on the screen. So
if you didn't like it, don't post anything. Okay.
yeah. So this is a hashtag we are giving you. So I request all the attendees who are present here to provide your opinion back on the LinkedIn by tagging us. And it's of Anblicks and Anblicks Alation Masterclass. And if you want to connect with the speakers of today's masterclass, like Gowtham, Anthony, of course we missed him, unfortunately, and with Siddharth, we are going to provide their LinkedIn profiles, which will be displayed here on the screen for next half an hour. And I just want to thank all the audience who are present here, and truly you are such an incredible audience who made this session as an engaging and an enlightening. So, yeah, now we are going to have a small token of thanks to our speakers. So we are going to present few gifts as a token of thanks to our speakers. So I request Gowtham to please come here. Yeah, first. Yeah. So I request Gowtham to present a gift as a token of thanks to Siddharth.
Guys, again, before this, just a quick couple of things, right? Our intent is to form communities, share knowledge. We might not have covered everything. Apologies for the first session being missed. Hopefully, we'll get a demo and share it to you guys so you understand Alation better. But the request I have is build your networks, connect with each other, connect with us. Happy to share thoughts. And we'll collectively grow the community and make India a better place in the world. So that's the overall goal for us. Okay, and thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Siddharth, for traveling away from Pune to Hyderabad. And I request Abhishek to please come here and present a gift to Gowtham. By the way, Abhishek is our Vice President of Anblicks, and of course, right, Gowtham is our MD. Yeah, thanks, Gowtham, for taking up the session.
Harsha got the gift. I think he was organizing, but I just want to speak a couple of words about him. Right, he's our campus recruit last year, but at least so far, in my experience, I haven't seen a better Gen AI engineer than him. Right, so thank you, Harsha. He creates a lot of value for us. Connect with him if you have any Gen AI thoughts or discussions you want to have. And one thing I want to say is, experience doesn't matter, at least the number of years. Everybody can create an impact, understand business as well, the value well, and Harsha does that really good for us. Thanks, Harsha.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for gracing this event and making it a great success. This is our second meetup in Anblicks. We would like to conduct more events like this in future. So we need your help. We want you to spread the word about this meetup. I hope you had a great learning experience. We would like to share the same on social media with the hashtags provided. And we're also running a contest regarding this event. So we are going to announce 3 winners. Whoever is most engaged and spreading the word about this event would be appreciated with a few gifts from Anblicks. We will be personally reaching out to you once we finalize the winners. So I hope if you like, Yeah, few technical glitches, some things happen, and we are learning along with you guys. So we are trying. We'll in future we'll make sure we'll elevate your experience more and give sessions like this. Thank you all for coming here. Yeah, so for the contest, the deadline is today 6 p.m. So please make sure you guys.
So I
Yeah.
have one question. Like apart from volunteers, other Anblicks employees also can do that, right? Participate.
Sure, sure. Yeah, everyone can.
Okay, apart from volunteers.
You'll also get the gift, Bansi. Yeah, so we have a small snack arranged at the cafeteria. Before that, we would like to take a group photo with all you guys as a memory to keep with us with Anblicks. So, yeah. So after the snack, we are also providing the branded goodies by Anblicks. Please make sure to collect the goodies. Thank you.
Yeah, I request everyone to come here so that we can have a group photo click.
అట్లా ఉంటాను సార్. 1 second.
Wait. Stop. Candid fix. Candid. Wait. One more. Ready.
Okay.
మంచిగా సెట్గా ఉంది. నీల్ డౌన్ ఆన్ చేయొచ్చు సార్. నీల్ డౌన్. కూర్చోండి. ఇక్కడ స్పెచ్ గా ఉంది.
Yeah, for the past 2.5 years, I've been doing data governance. For that, I was a
Wait.
So you are into
Wait. 1 second. Wait, sir.